physically powerful and who's willing to take the big chance. And one of those is Stijn Vandenberg, and he makes sure that he's right on the front as they come through all of these sectors. Is he doing too much, or is he doing it just the right way?
Well, everybody's got their own way of riding, and Stijn Vandenberg, we've seen him when he used to ride for Quick Step. He likes to ride on the front, pick his own line, and this is another one of these races that you know, if you're at the front, you can pick your own line. It's, you know, less rides, and you know, there's no place to hide. We keep on saying this in races like Paris-Roubaix and, you know, a lot of these other races, but absolutely no place to hide. And you know, there's a lot of these riders that, you know, I've looked at the course. I think it's, you know, one of these races, and I think, you know, it could come into the series. Now we've got Strade Bianche in Italy, you know, we've got Tro-Bro and Paris-Roubaix. There's a place for these races, and you know, we've got the Cycling Classic in the UK as well, on the kind of farm track. So it just adds another element to bike racing. And you know, I'm a firm believer, you know, I prefer to have, you know, race and tarmac, and you know, you have risks and things like this, but there are some, you know, riders and even just kind of leisure cyclists that like this type of stuff. And if you've got the setup in your bike to make it a little bit safer, you know, bigger tyres and things like that, then why not? I think they're exciting. They're more exciting than some races where they kind of bowl around in circuits and things like that. But yeah, I think there is an element, and I think we may see kind of more of this type of racing, and it does add to it because you come off sectors and then you have to kind of chase, and you know, it makes the race a little bit more interesting, I think.
Absolutely, there's certainly a demand from the fans, and the fans will dictate it to a certain extent. There is that appetite for this style of racing from the spectators and from those riders who just go out to try their luck and see what sort of standard they can reach out on the roads on their own. But it does certainly place extra demands on the teams, of course. And there are team workers dotted all over the countryside, moving around in what is a logistical tour de force to try and supply their team riders with a wheel should they be necessary.
It's the same logistics as you have in Paris-Roubaix. Okay, a bit more of a lower level, because I know even the Joker team in the dark blue here, they've got Forfang in here, but Andy Verrill, who is a mechanic and helps them, you know, he does the same thing as he would do working with, he worked with me with the MTN Quebecer, and he does the same planning around these races. And you know, as you say, it's for a third division team, this is a big race. This is, you know, and if you can put the thoughts process through, you know, helping your riders and giving them the maximum, then you have to have, you know, people in each sector and diving around. And you know, I know that when we went there with the Endura racing, it was, you know, we're worried about the low profile tyres even in the cars going there, because you know, as you know, the grass grows in the middle, and you know, it can hit the underside of the car. So it's
some cars for Paris-Roubaix, you need something similar here, don't
exactly,
you?
Exactly. You know, they've got kind of bevel up in the middle of the road because, you know, obviously the tractors have been on. It's the same here, and yeah, it's just, I think a series of these type of races, they should be all in one. And I know we've got the kind of French Cup today, but I think Strade Bianche, and there's a race in Belgium, I forget what it's called, but there's a gravel race in Belgium as well, Cycling Classic. If you can combine them into a race series of about maybe 7 or 8, and you know, see who comes out on top, there'll be a lot of riders that kind of focus in these type of events that we'd love to be involved in that kind of competition. But yeah, you can see that at the front of the main peloton, nobody really wants to chase. They know there's still a long way to go. There's still plenty of sectors still to come. As we head on to the 18th sector, there's 27 today, so there's plenty of sectors still to come. They come quick and fast now, and there's no real impetus in the front group as well as the group behind, but the group behind only at 20 seconds, so still opportunities. But Damien Godin is riding on the front, and he knows that there's a potential here of kind of doubling up on his win last year when he was riding for the French Army team.
Out onto the coast, the winds crash against the coastline, and that gives you some sense of the topography. It's relatively benign, yeah, I can tell you. Through the winter, it's going to be tough country. Well, they've got to charge along now, haven't they? Because there's not a whole lot between Group 2 and Group 3 on the road. The peloton, I think, could well become a little bit bigger. The counterattacks are coming out of the peloton. There's a frantic activity and a frantic urgency to get up front, and there isn't any coordinated assault. Tough to get anything organised with these sections of Rabanou coming in quick, in fast order, in short order. So there's very little time to get organised, really.
Exactly, and you know, predominantly this race is a battle between the French teams. You know, it is a French Cup race, and they kind of battle against each other. And nice to see. I think it's a couple of years ago now that one of the British teams, One Pro Cycling, came over and got first and second. Pete Williams was in second place that day, and you know, nice to see sometimes that some of the you know, the British or other foreign teams coming over and getting involved with, which is, I think, you know, kind of very unique race here in Brittany.
Not looking good at the moment for Maxime Daniel, is it? Indeed, he had one or two teammates from Team Fortuneo Samsic who were attacking out of the peloton to try and get up towards that lead move. Might be a good idea that they continue that that impetus and that ambition, because it doesn't look, the signs and the signals aren't good for Daniel at the moment. At the front, a group of 4 riders with a couple chasing on. And then the rest are being scattered to the 4 winds. Stijn Vandenberg looking very strong at the moment. Benjamin Thomas has been in good form for Groupama. FDJ to get up into the pointy end. Godin and Bouda are strong riders. Godin is a big rider. He's made for this event, really. He's done well in Paris-Roubaix in the past. Hasn't had quite the classics campaign that he would have hoped for this year. Bouda, who won the Cholet race on the French Cup calendar not so long ago. We're picking up the group behind. This is the second group on the road.
Yeah, it looks like that, and you just had one of the riders had a bit of a mishap in that corner there, so it could be down to only 6 riders in front. And as we see it now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he's made it back. One rider now being distanced from the front of the race, and this is going to continue like this, and you know, on these dirt roads. In fact, there's another event in Denmark, Herning Grand Prix, that uses dirt roads as well. A great winner way back in 1994 of that race, Grand Prix Midbank it was called then. But yeah, after that, Bjarne Riis, I think, won it 3 years in a row. But yeah, there's races like this, quite unique races throughout the world, and I think if we could combine them, there's this mishap here. It was, in fact, Forfang, the Joker rider, just coming off there. So I think Andy Vero will be jumping up and down, saying, we looked at these sectors, what are you doing? So yeah, it looks as if he's going to have a bit of a chase, unless he just waits for the second group and comes back to the front again. Yeah,
a bit of a cyclocross remount. Didn't spend any time collecting his bottle, but did manage to get back up, and this is the suffering, and really suffering in no man's land now. Maxime Daniel, the French rider with Team Fortuneo Samsic. He's done well to get into this group, but the signal not good at the moment.
You just see all the support on the right hand side. You see that after every sector, pair of wheels, some bottles and things like that for these riders, because there's absolutely no way that you're going to get any service today from your team car behind. That's if your team car makes it to the finish.
Yeah, the team cars are quite a way behind, and they might well be tempted just to stop at the finish line. I think when they arrive in, we'll be hitting the finishing circuit with 13 kilometers remaining. Then we'll have 2 complete laps of 4.7 kilometers. There's 1 sector on each of those laps, which could be significant in deciding the overall destination of honours. Quick reminder of the riders up front. No surprise, but Direct Energy are putting lots of energy into this one, with Damien Godin and Thomas Bouda wearing Dossard's number 1 and 2 respectively. Godin, the reigning champion. That's Stijn Vandenberg, who's decided to stomp on the pedals a little bit. The big man from AG Tour Le Mondial, the Belgian rider. Remember, just one former Belgian winner of this event. It's Joe Plankert back in the year 2000, a while ago. The time that was repeated, says Stijn Vandenberg. He's riding for a French squad. Forfang now finds himself in a rearguard action.
Yeah, this is a situation that if you're represented in the front breakaway, they're also picking up the Fortuneo rider Maxime Daniel that was in the breakaway. So obviously that mishap meant that Joker are now chasing to bring their riders back into contention.
Inside 34 kilometres to go, 5 up front. Bit of a reset at the front of the field in Tro-Bro Léon as we head down towards the finish. Still 32.5 kilometres remaining, and there was a junction between the front and second group, first and second groups on the road, but Stijn Vandenberg just not willing to accept that, and Thomas Bouda as well has seen the opportunity to go with the big Belgian rider, and it's now 2 up front and a much bigger group behind as the 6 became, well, almost became about, what, 20 riders up front, maybe a bit more than that indeed. Now they find themselves chasing 2. And that's about all that's left involved in Tro-Bro Léon. 122 riders began this event, just 2 World Tour teams involved. Groupama FDJ and AG Tour Le Mondial. It's all changed at the front. There was a bit of a reset between the front, the first and second groups, but Stijn Vandenberg of AG Tour Le Mondial not willing to accept that as we come down towards the back end of Tro-Bro Léon. The big Belgian rider with AG Tour Le Mondial just stomped on the pedals, drew himself clear once more. The riders behind looking for an opportunity to take a bit of a breather. That is all except Thomas Bouda of the Direct Energy squad, a rider who's in absolutely fine form. We're into sector 20 of 27.
The thing is, 20, we're on 20 now, 21 comes quickly, 22 comes just after it, so obviously Stijn Vandenberg done his homework, wants to try and stay in front, knows that it's a lot easier to pick your lines through these dirt roads from the front, and obviously using a bit of strength to be able to do that. But nice to see Zach Dempster up towards the front of the Aussie in the left hand side, starting to make a move for the Israel Cycling Academy team. So it's some riders that have made efforts, like this man here already is starting to pay for it now.
That's Benjamin Thomas from Groupama FDJ. He was in that front group, the junction was made, and then he just fell off a cliff, but still resisting and putting in what's left of his fast dwindling energy resources is Maxime Daniel, but the group is disappearing into the distance, and he's not going to play any further part in the destination of overall honours in this event. Daniel out of contention. Thomas is gone again as well. Dempster's made it across, so now 3 up front, with Vandenberg looking across and looking for some inspiration. Oh, and Bouda goes down its front end, and that was a nasty little one. Managed to keep his head off the ground, and he was just, I think it's just a minor lack of concentration perhaps. He was just thinking his way through to the exit of the corner without worrying about where he was in the middle of it, and that was a bit of a messy one.
Yeah, just looking on it, just to touch the gravel on the inside. There was a build up there, and yeah, that's what happens. Everybody's ridden a bike, as soon as you hit gravel and you're starting to turn, slides away, and not the nicest to come down on. Gravel rashes, I've had a few of them in my career, and not the nicest, and now he's got a hard chase. He was riding well, but these are the things that happen in these type of races, but we still love them. It's, you know, we're talking about earlier the kind of gravel, the kind of dirt road races that we've got throughout Europe. Even I think one in the US called Battenkill. We mentioned, I think it was Midge Paris-Roubaix said that Chalcels was the race in Belgium. So potentially a good little series, because I know a lot of these riders that really love these type of races, and yeah, who knows what may happen in the future, but opportunities to have just watching here again, another rider just too fast into that corner. I was just a wee bit hesitant myself there when I saw him coming into that corner there. AG2R just coming too quick and just realising last minute, and just off he goes. Zach Dempster now coming towards the fore, and Zach absolutely loves these type of races.
Yeah, great bike handling from Zach Dempster, missing the first of those ones, and missing the Bouda one. Different grip levels, of course, on these tracks, and just a fast changing situation for the riders, trying to tiptoe around and just feel the grip. And now we've got Dempster to the fore for Israel Cycling Academy. The best way, I think, to be right now is up front and away from the rest, because there's so much potential for difficulty, so much potential for something to go wrong. Dempster has managed to tiptoe around the difficulties in the obstacles to this point. Rider who once upon a time raced with NetApp Endura and the Endura Racing squad, so he knows this race of old, 30 years of age now.
Well, he won the, we're talking about the Cycling Classic at Rutland Melton. He won it in 2011, long time ago. He's been around a while, so he likes this type of racing.
He's putting it up to the rest, and what's coming across isn't a complete group. How big will the group be when they get up to Dempster? Always assuming that they do. At the moment, Dempster just looking around to see who wants to come playing. Big Aussie, almost 2 meters tall. A big unit. It's not too hilly a race, albeit this is something of a climb. Not exactly alpine in character and nature, and that's Naulu of Direct Energy, who's starting to feel it. Can't quite get on top of that big gear, and you need to be able to turn that one reasonably quickly if you're going to be up with the leaders in this one. Tro-Bro Léon is living up to its name, living up to its character, the so-called Hell of the West, Mini-Roubaix. They all reference the Big Brother event, but this is a race that has its own character, its own style. It's the festival that surrounds it, and the community atmosphere that's part of these events in this part of France as well really is something to enjoy. I think for any bike fan from Ireland or Britain, it's well worth the trip on the ferry just to try out this kind of racing, just get a sense of it and get a feel for what is a super weekend away, really, isn't it?
He's just looking at last year's winner, just at the back there, trying to stay with this front group. Stijn van den Berg still looking strong. Zach Dempster still up there, but an attack by Groupama FDJ just in the left-hand side just a moment earlier. But this front group whittling down very quickly now. So
Godin's in trouble. The reigning champion, well spotted, Brian. He's just dangling off the back here, and the signs aren't good. Is that because he had some sort of specific other problem, or is this just the legs starting to fail him? I think he really does wind a big gear, and he could well get back in here, but the signs at the moment not too strong, unless he had some sort of technical problem that affected him.
I think he was involved with that move of 4 riders that went forward, and he's paying for his efforts over these few sectors. He may recover, we don't know.
Down to the final 28 kilometers. 6 sectors remaining of the Rabanou. Final sector we hit it with 2.8 kilometers remaining in the race, and that's of 700 meters. That's 3 routes through the Meshwell. And Brittany has put its hat on, hasn't it? It's best bib and tucker for a beautiful Sunday afternoon of racing. And these helicopter shots don't really give the sense of just how arduous the terrain that these riders have to make their way through just exactly is. It drags up and down as well in a way that Roubaix really doesn't. Added in, there's quite a bit of wind out there today. Not so much that they're not going to put on the deep section rims, but it's definitely playing a role. Godin's managed to just about winch himself back onto the back of this group.
Yeah, it's important he stays there. I think he's just gone through a little bit of a bad patch. He'd made an effort some 10-15 kilometres before. He went forwards and he paid for it, because we've got about 3, possibly 4 sectors all within about 10 kilometres here. But it's back to the front. Ladagnu pushing on, puffing and blowing. Stijn van den Berg still in there. So is Zach Dempster up in 3rd place with a mixture of ones and twos from different teams. But you can just see a bit of a grimace on the face of many of these riders now. They're starting to feel the pinch in this race.
So Ladagnu just makes an effort. They all stall a bit when they make their way onto slightly better road surface. Stijn van den Berg wants to go on everything, doesn't he? He's full of fight. Seems super keen and super up for this one, the AG Tour Le Mondial rider.
Well, he's experienced enough to know that with a smaller group behind, there's less people to chase, and so it's better to be in the front in these races. One, for safety reasons, but the other reason is the fact that he knows that there's less firepower behind, less riders willing to chase. And Groupama France said that you have 2 riders there. and he just kind of put the brakes on, and all of a sudden they'll have to come back to the front and start chasing again like they are now.
Yeah, Dempster kicks that one off. Stein Vandenberg covers it, and you've a sense that the really strong riders are starting to make their presence felt. Multi-Group Gobert on the attack and involved in this one. Backart by any chance? He certainly he likes this race. If he's made it in here, he's a rider that certainly knows it well. Second in 2017, Frederick Backart. Group behind, though, not too far in arrears and not willing to give it up. Fortuneo are not involved in this one. And the Groupama FDJ have a little bit of a problem, because I can only pick out 2 of their riders. I'm presuming that Christophe Laporte is one of them. He was very, and look, it's problems again for Damien Gaudin. He will fight as long as he's within touching distance, as long as there's a joule of energy left in his body. We saw it from him last year. It was an absolutely fabulous race victory that he took for the Army de Terre squad. And what a great win for that small French Army sponsored team.
Yeah, this does look as if it's Backart there for Wanty-Group Gobert, but also in there is the Norwegian champion, and that's Rasmus Tiller has made that cross here. And I know with communication with Andy Verrill, who works with that team, that you know, this is one of these kind of weekends that they look forward to, one of the races that they really have got a big interest in, and they've got their Norwegian champion in front now.
Oh, Rasmus Tiller is, as you say, the champion of Norway, and a very strong rider. We had Forfang in there a little earlier on, hit the deck and dropped back to the group behind. Not sure what his involvement is at the moment. Now we 4 up front, 25.2 kilometers remaining. Still a lot of tough bike racing to go in this Tro-Bro Léon. And Gaudin is looking for some relief, is looking for a way to recover. And these roads are not really offering him much of an opportunity. He'll follow in the slipstream of the riders in front on this descent, and perhaps, and he hopes against hope, that the pace diminishes and drops away, but really in reality it's only likely to increase.
Well, he's in a situation now where he's already made an effort. He's gone forward, he's paying for it, he's trying to recover as much as he can. And Buda has already had an incident, and it doesn't look as if he's made it back on. So he's the only rider from Direct Energy, and he came into this race as one of the favourites. So the only thing he can do is just trying to conserve as much energy over the next 10, 15, 20 kilometres and see if this second group can stay in touch of the front of this race, so that he could possibly be in chance of a win. But these are 4 strong riders, and you know, these 4 riders can go all the way towards the finish. And just behind, you've got a small group of 12, 16 riders, 2 riders from Groupama FDJ. But if these 4 riders commit, which they look as if they are doing now, these are 4 riders that are going to be hard to chase now.
It's the strong men are starting to come to the fore. Picked out Jonas Rijkaard for the Sport Vlaanderen Balois squad, is in that group behind and chasing behind. He's a strong man as well. 8th in the Schelde Prize just a couple of weeks ago, and they're within touching distance. The road starts to wind. You don't quite get out of sight, out of mind with pro bike riders, though. They're absolutely fully in tune with exactly what the gap is. The question is, as we head down to the next section, this right turn coming up very shortly, more dirt roads, more difficulties for the riders behind in terms of getting on terms.
You can just see behind Declan that it's left up to Groupama FDJ. They only have 2 riders in this group, so you know, they're putting a lot of hope in their second rider in this group, and you know, to keep these riders at bay is going to be very hard as we come on to sector 23.
Backart puts the hammer down, puts Stein Vandenberg under a little bit of pressure. Vandenberg has started to play his cards early in this race. That certainly, we've seen works in the classics. So you think of Peter Sagan last week in Paris-Roubaix. And indeed for Sylvain Dillier going in the early break and picking up a great second place finish. We've seen similar results across the classics over the years. So Vandenberg would have been advised to go, but of course those that have managed to save a bit of energy and arrive up from behind, well, might just have a few more matches to burn.
It looks as if Cofidis and the Reds have got Laporte there. It's Hofstetter. It is just kind of hanging in there. So it looks as if Damien Godin, last year's winner, really struggling, but still in there with an opportunity. But Cofidis, 2 riders in here, and 2 strong riders at that.
He rides a big gear, doesn't he? And any little drag really is costing him. But Godin is going to persevere for as long as he possibly can. Hofstetter, that you've mentioned from the Cofidis, from the red-clad Cofidis squad, is the leader of the French Cup. So he'll be looking to hang in for as long as he can to add to his points tally. Is there a bike rider in the history who hasn't suffered like this man? Albeit most bike riders don't manage to put out quite as many watts while they're doing it. And Godin's commitment to this cause really is a sight to behold, and we wondered how much longer that he can do it. Every rise on the road, he just can't quite get up there. I mean, it's just it's almost painful to watch, but so impressive too, his willingness to defend that title, to honor Dossard #1, and to honor this race that is such a beautiful thing. So 6 seconds, it's a narrow advantage, but the strong riders starting to make their way to the top. And Tro-Bro Léon, 22 and a bit kilometers to go. While we're within the final 20-odd kilometers in Tro-Bro Léon, we're struggling for pictures out there, which is such a shame because it's really kicking off, and the weather is starting to make its way in across Brittany and have a little bit of effect on the transmission of pictures. So hopefully we'll get those back to you as soon as possible. Just to update you on the situation, the Stijn Vandenberg group had been towed back, and his teammate Cyril Gauthier was attempting to counter-attack and see what he could produce in terms of dragging a little group up the road. But it's punch and counter-punch in Tro-Bro Léon into the closing stages. Still plenty of sectors of Rabanou for the riders to contend with and to make their way across, but really is almost impossible to say exactly what's going to happen at the moment. Well, we're into the last knockings of Tro-Bro Léon, and it's winding up. I can tell you we're struggling for pictures at the moment. The weather conditions a little bit choice across the Breton region. I put the mockers on it by saying how wonderful they were, and that's starting to change and make it a little bit difficult for us to get pictures from the course. But suffice it to say, it is getting busy out there, with Stijn Vandenberg having been towed back with his teammate Cyril Gauthier. We pick up the shots now, 20-odd kilometers remaining. Gauthier with that narrow advantage and a couple of cohorts, and a rider trying to make it across and make it 4 up front, and there's very, very few strong riders left in this event, and the wet conditions are only going to make things more difficult. 20 kilometers remaining. Tro-Bro Léon is boiling up to this one. The weather conditions have changed, and the identity of the riders up front and the character of this event has changed a little bit as well, because there's still a few mud tracks. They're muddy now, aren't they? At least 4 sections remaining. The next one comes with 18.6 kilometers remaining, so we're within a kilometer or so of the next sector, and it's fully 1900 meters long, and that's going to tell us a lot about who's got the strength to win this race.
Yeah, exactly. It is, you know, one of the longer ones here, and then afterwards we come into the town and have the finishing lap. So the last 3 sectors are the same sector of 700 meters, but it's only 4.7 kilometers in length. When they come through the finishing line, they'll have 2 complete laps. So the race is definitely on. Français de Dieu, I keep on saying this, Groupana, Français de Dieu, have been on the chase pretty much all day today, trying to keep things together. Ladagnu has been one of the instigators and keeping the breaks at bay, but fortunately this time they've got someone in the breakaway. Gaultier goes to the front for AG2R. So we'll get 4 riders in the front with a very slender advantage on 13 riders just behind. It's only a matter of about 4 or 5 seconds, but it does look as if Christophe Laporte is coming across here with Zach Dempster again in tow.
Yeah, he's really strong, isn't he, today, Zach Dempster? And Christophe Laporte is in fine form as well. He's really stepping up with the Cofidis squad. 4th in Gent-Wevelgem. and he's had 3 wins already this year, so Christophe Laporte would have been a targeted rider. And the Cofidis squad, one of the heavy-hitting squads in this group, and Damien Godin had
just
managed
to go away, will he?
Oh, he battled his way back into contention, and then another drag. Fabulous rider, and he is well, he gets my award for hardest trier of the day.
Even when he wins, he does this.
It looks the same, doesn't it? Because he always rides a huge gear, so it looks like his progress isn't particularly impressive. I can tell you, he's going well over 40 kilometers an hour there, dragging that big gear across Brittany this afternoon, and the wet weather now piling down. At the back, towards the back, Jonas Rijkaard of the Sport Vlaanderen Valois squad, not represented up front. What are they going to do about getting involved? It's, I think, one rider from each of the squads is in that front group, and that could be good news. But now the riders have to put a different expectation on the grip levels under wheel as they turn into the next sector. Carandron is fully, as I say, just a little bit less than 2 kilometers. This is going to tell us a lot. Rijkaard loitering and lingering at the back. Stijn Vandenberg's at the back as well. Look at him, the big, tall Belgian rider. Now starting to feel the pinch a little bit, I suspect. Of course, he's got a rider up front, so he's no responsibility for chasing, but he's wanted to own the front of each of the groups he's been in all afternoon when they've hit these sectors. It's not the case today, or at least not the case on this section. So Stijn Vandenberg, the signals are that he's perhaps not feeling it. Beautiful round turrets. Signature architecture of the Breton region. Dempster on the attack once more. There are really only yards between Dempster and the next group and the group behind as well. It's all knitting back together again.
Yeah, at least they know the sector. They've came through this sector. This was actually 15 and 23. So only one more sector to go, and then we are in the finishing loops with the 4.72 laps. But we do the same sector, the ribbon, which is 25, 26, 27. It only lasts for about 700 meters on this finishing lap.
Dempster on the front, he's been towed back, he's been called to heel, but he's going to stay there on the front and control this one. At the back of the group, they've got other agendas, other difficulties. They've got to try and get a sense of what exactly is looming in front of them, and by the same token concentrate totally on what exactly, in terms of the riders, what they're doing in front of them as well. So it's an added complication, and that's why it makes it so much easier to be on the front where possible, even if you are riding in the wind.
Yeah, and the conditions changing a little bit with the rain coming down for a bit there. Godin still in it. It just makes the mud a little bit more slidey, but you know, these riders, you know, pro riders, they're used to these type of conditions, the changing conditions. But the Norwegian champion Tiller looking strong. He's already been involved with the race already, pushing hard here. And Wanty Group Gobert with the Backert, Gauthier is still there. So testing times now as we see the group starting to split up ever so slightly. Stijn Vandenberg, as you've already mentioned, down the back of that group. So a tough part of this sector now, and a good place once we get over the top of here to put the pressure on to try and force the lead group.
Tough drag, 1.9 kilometers on rough roads, bit of a crosswind as well, and it's only the strongest can survive that, and it's Rasmus Tiller that's gone to the front. It's all gone backwards for Jonas Rijkaard. As we suggested, he wasn't loitering at the back just because he wasn't interested. The legs just weren't capable of carrying him up towards the front. Still brave effort. He's got down into the thing. He practically comes to a halt there. It's just so difficult, this race. Just over 200 kilometers, and it's we're down to the thick end of that now, aren't we, with the Tiller, the Norwegian champion, steering a path through that last sector with some facility. He's a big man who's clearly on an absolute stormer of a day.
He does look very strong. Split the group behind, and I think now it's time to go. There's a group of 4 behind, just about to be followed by another couple of riders. And you know, when we get this deep into a race and you're starting to get depleted of energy sources, who's going to chase? And it's going to be an interesting one, because Tiller, the Norwegian champion, is definitely on some good form at the moment, and is a hard one to bring back.
What's remarkable, actually, is he's just a 21-year-old, and this is only his 5th day of UCI racing so far this year, so he hasn't had too many opportunities to race at this level. Indeed, 2 of those races were under-23 Nations Cup events. His best result, 14th in Ronde van Vlaanderen, the Tour of Flanders for the under-23 category. So he is a rider with a big future. At 21, he's wearing those national champion stripes with pride. Best results apart from that, 5th in the Grand Prix Marcel Kint in 2017. Tiller now, who would bet against him? It's a long way to go, 15.5 kilometres, hits the smooth roads again. Now we'll have a little bit of a reset behind, and who's got the strength to get back in touch with this this emerging Norwegian? And they have a real conveyor belt of talent, don't they? They seem to generate wonderful athletes, but there's a really deep love of bike racing. That's an awkward technical section, isn't it, on a wet road?
And they'll also get inspired from what happened in Bergen last year. So, yeah, Norwegian cycling has been on the up in the last decade, which is nice to see. Keep on producing some good champions. And this was an opportunist win. It was a bit of a surprise that he won the national title when you consider the amount of Norwegian professionals there are. But just like I was saying a little bit earlier, who is prepared to chase? If he can just kind of hang out there a little bit, there is a lot of tired legs behind. There's no real dominant team, so there'll be a few people that will be looking around and looking towards the kind of World Tour riders, if there's any left to do the chasing.
Inside the final 15 kilometres for Rasmus Tiller, the Norwegian national road race champion, an advantage now heading towards about 10 seconds. It's not quite a winning advantage, but it is significant, and he's within a kilometre or so of the start of the finishing circuit. He's got about 2.5 full laps of 4 and 4.7 kilometres to traverse if he's to take off and take away the 35th Tro-Bro Léon. The prize pig, the wonderful trophy, and the prize money to go with it, and the knowledge that he has taken some considerable scalps. And for a rider of developing ability, this would be a very, very important victory if he can manage it. Still a long way to go before you can say he's even at the point where he can compose his victory salute, but he's looking good at the moment. And Tiller, something is going to have to happen soon, because he looks full of fight.
Yeah, it was a good time to go, and he keeps on looking behind to see what his progress is. Nobody coming across, and he's within a couple of kilometres of the final section. It's the 700-metre Roubaix, and then we'll cross the finishing line. We'll do the same sector again. We'll do 2 laps of 4.7 kilometres. But just as I was saying behind, who's going to be doing the chasing? Because you know, Laporte is there, Groupama Français de Jeu. Well, this man, he can just set out a good tempo, constant looking behind to see what his progress is. He just has to concentrate on the job. Don't think he quite believes he can go the whole way. And Groupama FDG are still doing the chasing. They've been doing the chasing pretty much all day. But who's going to help? Zach Dempster coming up. Laporte just swings off. Gaultier's still there. So, you know, it's an interesting one. Nobody really wanting to commit. Well, they can't afford to give this man too much time at the front.
Well, I remember an edition of this race about 4 or 5 years ago, and Français de Jeu, as Groupama FDG were known in those days, supplied about 5 of the top 7 in the race. Well, they're not having it all their own way today, are they? And they've just got 1 or 2 riders in this group. But Ladan, you're doing superb work to close down everything where possible. But now the gap has gone up to 15 seconds for Rasmus Tiller. Still not a winning advantage. Where are the attacks going to come from behind? Who's got the strength? Who's got the belief? Zach Dempster has been very, very active. Stein Vandenberg starting to struggle now and going south through the last section. Where are the strong man? Are there any riders who've managed to save a little bit and hide a little bit in the wheels of the other riders through what is fundamentally a hard man's course? Well, a tiptoe right-hander on these greasy roads. Concentration levels starting to become difficult to maintain, with well over 180 kilometers in their legs. Now behind, it's the big guns of French racing. Cofidis, AG Tour Le Mondial, and Groupama FDJ. Cofidis in the red. Groupama FDJ just got on the pedals, and ticker suggesting it's still sitting at 15 seconds, so no sign of it coming down. No sign of it going up either. The tiller looks very, very comfortable, very at ease. I'm sure it's not the case, but he's in control of his physique, in control of his body, in control of his energy output. And the group behind starting to split under the combined efforts of Groupama FDJ, Cofidis and AG Tour Le Mondial. Conditions, well, it's a bit of a pea super now, isn't it? Tough to pick out the riders. Tiller, I think, will be, well, he's having to crank the bike over a couple of times into those corners. Not a lot of confidence going in, and who would blame him?
Yeah, this is his sector now as he comes on to it, and he'll have to do this another twice as he comes round this lap, but at least he's in the front. He can choose his own line. The others will have to, you know, chase them down, and it does look as if Groupama FDJ are the team trying to do that.
Well, it's particularly testing, and it's just a little bit of extra anxiety caused as he catches the lead camera motorbike in that left-hand corner. It stays upright, no harm, no foul. Not too far behind, down to 11 seconds. The gap coming down a little bit. There's a nervousness among all the French squads. Don't want to let this one go to Norway. It'll be a first ever victory for Norway, should that be the case. Jan Kirsipuu took a lone victory for Estonia back in 1992. The single victory for Belgium went to Joe Plankert back in 2000. Denmark took this race a couple of years ago, courtesy of Martin Mortensen. And Australia, the only multiple winners apart from the host nation. Mark Renshaw backing up Baden Cook's victory. Renshaw winning back in 2006.
He's holding out there well, still 11 seconds, but you know, just look at the front of the group behind. Nobody really kind of chasing hard. You know, no teams with any dominance at all. So, you know, Zach Dempster comes to the front. He knows he's within a chance of a big win here, and he wants to take a hold of it. This man just has to concentrate, increasing by a few seconds again. He'll be the first across the line. He'll have 2 complete laps, but yeah, it's where's the chase, where's the attack's going to come, because this tiredness creeping in, and all the time this man is out front on his own.
The last wet Paris-Roubaix was all the way back in 2002, but Tro-Bro Léon can trump that, because the rains have really descended across Brittany. These April showers, I don't think they're going to affect the riders in terms of cold. I don't think that's going to be an issue for them, but certainly it's going to make these sections. He's got a couple more sectors of Rabanou to make his way through if he's to take the victory. Back up to 16 seconds, so it's on a knife edge. Just over 10 kilometers remaining, so about a kilometer to the finish line for the first time, first of 3 sightings. You'll get a sense of exactly what that finish is. Meanwhile, behind, anxious moments. No really committed chase at the moment. Just how much strength is in there? How many teams are willing to sacrifice a rider? Well, there aren't that many teams that have more than one rider.
Oh, he's down.
Oh, he's down. He's down. The leader, Tiller, goes down on that left-hander. We talked and we spoke about just how treacherous those corners were, and he's struggling to get back on his bike before the group arrive. Just he doesn't panic about it. Puts the chain on. and he at least, I think, will retain a lead just as the group arrive. But that's such a disappointment for Rasmus Tiller. He'll still be involved in this race, but how will that have affected his confidence? Has he picked up any injury? Doesn't seem to be the case at the moment. But Rasmus Tiller, and it just shows you just how treacherous these roads are when the rains arrive after a period of dry weather. Yeah, that's a real shame. I think the dynamics of the race has changed again. We're just coming around here. I think he just touches the no, he slides, he just comes straight round. Just obviously speed maybe had a bit of diesel or something, but this race was setting itself up. But now Zach Dempster decides that now's the time. Yeah, remarkable stuff. It's almost like he got on the power a little bit early. He just stomped on the pedals and the back wheel came out. There was no taking it back from there. Swung 45 degrees to him. Tiller is back in here, but how's he feeling now about another attack? Zach Dempster on the left-hand side of the road, just surveying the rest of the group, seeing who's got the strength. Well, the crowd have been rained upon, but they're going to hang on for the remaining 9 and a bit kilometers. Still a big group involved. It's Groupama FDJ that need to try and get their skates on. Yeah, this is Legac the last time, so Legac going with a Gautier. And it just looks as if we've had a little bit of regroupment. Hofstetter has found himself back towards the fore. So, as expected, we're starting to. This is actually Laporte. Hofstetter is the second of the red jerseys in Cofidis. But yeah, there's a lot of fatigue at the moment, and obviously a little bit of caution in some of these corners now that they've seen that Tiller has crashed. So Gautier in the brown, white and blue of AG Tour Le Mondial on the front. Christophe Laporte in the red of Cofidis is sitting second in line, and just yards of a gap because the Fortunato squad have missed this, the other big team from France. Down to the final 8 and a bit kilometers. Down to the final 2 finishing circuits of Tro-Bro Léon 2018. Christophe Laporte has a little look around to see exactly what kind of damage they've done, himself and his 2 cohorts. It's not a winning advantage, that's for sure. Will he persevere? Fortunato not quite able to get up there. Leave it up to Delco Marseille Provence to complete the job of closing that one down. Where's the next attack coming from? That's the thing, Legac still at the front, Zach Dempster thinking about it. Hofstetter up there for Cofidis. And the man that shut that one down for Fortunato was Laurent Pichon. Groupama FDJ on the front. Zach Dempster sitting in second. Legac, is he going to go again from the front? It's not going to work. Dempster welded to his wheel. They're all out on their feet. They're worrying. Yeah, they're looking around, and they're right to be looking around, because look at the size of the group that's coming up from behind, Brian. Yeah, there's 12 riders in the front, and look who's coming behind. Godin is making his way up through the cars now, so this is going to make interesting times now with 8 kilometers to go. 12 riders about to be joined by Godin to make it 13, so lucky for some. Still in there, Rasmus Tiller in those distinctive Norwegian national champions colours, just trying to shake some life back into the legs. Is he going to be minded to try another attack? I think he's going to have to instead defend his situation, because Cofidis have 2 riders. That amounts to strength in numbers in this, well, relatively small group. Hofstetter and Laporte working to try and create something. And on the back, once more, Damien Godin, the wonderful rearguard resistance from the defending champion. And those series of stalls allowed him to get back in, and I mean, he didn't throw in the towel when he was dropped the last time, which was amazing to behold. How's he going to get on across this now penultimate sector of dirt roads of Revenue? Gautier second in line for the AG Tour Le Mondial squad. Dempster looks in fine form. He's the single representative of the Israel Cycling Academy, the pro-continental team. team that have lit up so many races they've been involved in already this spring. Godin suffering, but he's got at least one rider for company.
Yes, unfortunately, he's got that rider. He hit them at the... he caught up with them at the wrong time, and now he's got a rider, Jelle Manertz from Tartaletto, just kind of distancing themselves off the back of the main group now. So Godin is going to have to make another effort if he wants to try and stay with the front group.
Down to the final 6.5 kilometres. The next sector comes with just 2.8 kilometres remaining. They'll see the finish line with 4.7 kilometres remaining. So within 2 kilometres of that, we've got that tricky little left-hander that caught our Norwegian champion Tiller out last time round. Another stall. Are there any other riders coming up from behind? It allowed Godin back in. And his Belgian cohort, Tartaletto Isser rider Jelle Manertz. Just as I say, Godin and Manertz winch themselves back on. He's not quite there yet, is he? Well, you wonder why he has a derailleur. Only one gear on his bike. Gauthier wants to set a tempo. He wants to try and drag Cofidis clear. Is that Hofstetter? Or is it Laporte? Delco Marseille Provence want to get a little piece of this. And that acceleration making it difficult for Godin once more. Now the attacks are coming. Cofidis, the only other squad with numbers. Naturally, they have to go on the attack. Yeah,
Laporte, you know, it's not for the first time he's attacked. He doesn't want to possibly trust his sprint at the end.
And he has a good sprint.
Yeah, very good sprint. But it's Bakker trying to bring him back. This is Tiller corner here. Just hope he gets round here because he's still within an opportunity here. The sun's starting to kind of dry it out, so they will go around it a little bit faster. And Legac is the rider from Groupama Française des Jeux, kind of pulling things back together. So as we come into town, we'll hear the bell, but it's Laporte is pushing on now.
Well, Hofstetter in his own right is a fine sprinter as well, so maybe that's just the way they've decided to play it. They've split their roles here. Christophe Laporte is a great sprinter, but this race isn't often decided in a sprint. He's going to get the bell. He's going to have the honour of getting the bell. The Cofidis rider and the French superstar, Christophe Laporte.
Godin's coming. He's coming up now. He's decided that he wants to play again. He's been hanging off the back, and Godin knows that he may not have the legs in the sprint. He won here last year, and he decided, well, I'm not playing any games. The race is on, and I want to try and win again.
Well, what an attitude. Absolutely fantastic, isn't it? He's been out on his feet so many times, sees a stall in the bunch, and knows that this is his opportunity. Because if everybody else starts attacking, he's only going to go again. If he can get across, well, what a fine opportunity for him to defend his title. Damien Godin honouring this bike race and really showing us what a fighting figure he is. And well, the riders behind, it's been put up to them, hasn't it? Delco Marseille Provence try to cover it. Fortuneo just a little bit behind. It's a little bit of a drag up to the line, and if it comes down to a sprint, it's going to be the strongest that will survive that. As Godin still dangling off the front of the group, but not quite able to get across to Laporte.
Well, he's not been brought back, that's the thing. If he can try and get to Laporte, it's going to be very tough. But it looks as if Gauthier is trying to chase things down. But as the sun comes out, it could be a sunny day for Laporte today.
Christophe Laporte riding solo to victory, is it? He's got just over 4 kilometres remaining in Tro-Bro Léon. The reigning champion, Damien Godin, how many times has he been dropped and fought his way back to the group? Now he has attacked to try and get across to his fellow countryman, the Cofidis rider, Christophe Laporte. He has a look over his shoulder. He still sits in the gap between the leader and the group behind, the select group that are still out there contesting the victory inside 4 kilometres to go in Tro-Bro Léon.
Yeah, going up this slight drag here. So this gap only a matter of about 100 metres. Laporte radio out the air decided this is my time to try and win this, but Godin is still not out of this. Where he gets the energy from, I don't know. We're just kind of panning back to see where the rest of the group is. Still opportunities here. Still just under 4 kilometres to go, but like he says, better to be in the front than having to chase from behind.
Well, he absolutely flew around that corner, Godin, and closed up a little bit. The concertina effect, of course, suggests that he got a little bit closer to Laporte than he probably did, but he did, I'm quite sure, close down a little bit to Christophe Laporte, and he's just dangling, what, less than 10 seconds between them. And Damien Godin wants this win. He's fighting. They're showing 7 seconds, 10 seconds back to Group 3. But Godin needs a little bit of sustenance to try and get to this next and this final sector of dirt roads. The final sector of Rabanou will be reached in, what, just under a kilometre remaining before Christophe Laporte reaches it. And Laporte is a very anxious man because he knows just how strong a rider and just what an amazingly resilient rider Damien Godin is.
That's the thing, we're coming up to this final sector, and we're going to be turning left, and do you take a bit of a risk? And Laporte will be really worried because Godin has to take a couple of risks here in some of these corners to shut Laporte down, and slowly but surely I think if Godin takes a couple of risks on especially in this big left-hander, then he could make it back up to Laporte.
Well, any other day, if it does come to a 2-up sprint, you would bet on Christophe Laporte against Damien Godin. Godin is not a sprinter. He's not a man with lots of fast-twitch muscle fibres, but he has an immense collection of slow-twitch muscle fibres. But here's a little left-hander. It's another opportunity for perhaps for Godin to gain a second or two, and he's trying and fighting to try and close that 7-second gap. It's holding steady on the ticker on our screen, but is it starting to close ever so slightly? The group behind also not too far away, although showing 23 seconds. But Godin, can he possibly get there? And if he does, is there anything left to try and put one over Christophe Laporte? Laporte, as you say, doesn't want to take any risks on this section.
No, and he didn't take any risks, and Godin just closed ever so slightly, but on this slight uphill out the sector, it's going to be very difficult for Godin to make it across to Laporte. Laporte has looked good, but this man, he went on the attack before, he was brought back, he really suffered over a few sectors, but he was the winner last year, really wants to try and win this race today for the second year in a row. But I think Laporte has got this one, and he just looked behind. There's a couple of riders not that far behind Godin at the moment.
He has a drag up to the finish, so those riders behind not completely out of it, and Damien Godin, well, he's out of it in one sense, but he's very much in it in another. He is, hardly knows his name, I think, at this stage, but he's going to leave everything out on the road and on those dirt roads indeed to try and get back to Christophe Laporte, almost within touching distance. Now just 4 seconds. Laporte taking no risks through the corners. Godin is winding that huge gear and winching in Christophe Laporte. Can he possibly get there? Laporte doesn't want to be there anymore. He's perhaps wondering about the folly of going solo and going clear of the group, but he wants to try and win in a beautiful way. He wants to win solo in Tro-Bro Léon into the finish today in Lanali. Godin still just perhaps loses another few yards through that last little sector. The road's starting to ramp up now in the final 1400 metres.
If anybody's going to get up to go down and see the riders behind, they were within striking distance, but I think they have left it a little bit too late. Is that Zach Dempster that's there trying to come across? But I think Laporte has got this because Damien Godin, he's not closing things down, and Laporte just going over the top of this small rise now. He'll go over the other side. You'll see the last kilometre. I think he's just got enough, but what a fight by Damien Godin behind.
Well, it's absolutely fantastic one-on-one stuff, and I wonder if Godin's going to get anything out of this, because they're starting to wind up behind and the riders are coming with a charge, and Godin can't quite get to Christophe Laporte. He looks behind himself so often and he senses that those riders are starting to close, but he's also sensing that Christophe Laporte is still within touching distance. It's really on a knife edge once more, and indeed for the second year in a row it's tough to call. But Christophe Laporte now gets some relief from the gradient as it just sweeps down, but he knows that he needs to continue to put the power in. No question that he can compose his victory speech and enjoy enjoy these last couple of kilometres. He's being made to fight for this one all the way to the line. Christophe Laporte knows that he's going to get there, but out of the saddle, and he's going to ride this one all the way to the line. Damien Godin starting to close up. He's going to make Christophe Laporte work for it all the way, but he's into the closing barriers now. And Christophe Laporte, with just 100 metres left, now he can think about composing that victory speech. What a brave defence by Damien Godin, but it's Christophe Laporte that gets Tro-Bro Léon of 2018. Cofidis take the victory. It's another victory for France, and it's another victory for Tro-Bro Léon as well. What a beautiful race. Well, let's see who's going to get the sprint for third. Tartaletto Isarec's squad are involved in this one. Is it Manertz perhaps that's got up to get third? We'll get full confirmation of that. But no doubt about the man that got the win, Christophe Laporte, and made to fight all the way by Godin. That was, he'll remember that win for a long time.
Yeah, it was a hard-fought win, but you know, having two riders there, Hofstetter and Laporte, he took it on. He's a fast finisher, and in this type of finish as well, slightly uphill. You'd have thought maybe he'd have kind of sat back, but he didn't want to. He wanted a solo victory, but Godin has to be the man in the match today. He fought, and you know, almost pulled off the double. It wasn't to be this year, but a fine second place with Manertz from Tartaletto in third place. But Cofidis will take that. It's a big boost for them, and good win by this man.
So it's Christophe Laporte that gets the victory for Cofidis ahead of defending champion Damien Godin. Tro-Bro Léon has lived up to its reputation once more.
Alors, je suis très heureux, j'ai fait la course assez tôt et voilà, c'était dur, j'ai eu un coup de moins bien et après ça allait mieux, je savais qu'il fallait...
That's very happy and it's very hard.
C'est limite mieux parce que tu donnes tout et derrière ça collabore mal, donc je voulais vraiment sortir, j'en ai vraiment fait beaucoup, donc je savais que c'était soit je sors, soit c'est mort, donc voilà, je suis très heureux. C'est vraiment une belle course et je suis content de gagner ici, c'est génial.
C'est votre quatrième victoire cette saison, j'imagine que c'est déjà
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a hard one for a bike sprint, so I decided to attack.
À Paris-Roubaix, c'est une course très importante pour moi. J'étais malade avant, donc j'avais vraiment à cœur de me rattraper avant la coupure. Et
yeah, suffering with illness just before Paris-Roubaix.
Je suis très heureux pour l'équipe et voilà.
And I wanted to win a race before I have my next period of rest. Now Christophe Laporte points to the sky. Tell you what, he has earned his dinner and indeed his period of rest. Great win for Cofidis, great win for Christophe Laporte, great win for bike fans as well. What a super race. We're going to just take a quick commercial break back after these. Well, formerly a lead-out man for Nasser Bouhanni, and now a race winner par excellence for Team Cofidis. Christophe Laporte gets another win. It's his fourth win of the season. To go the stage of Étoile de Bessèges and a couple of stage wins in the Tour Cycliste International La Provence. And now I think Tro-Bro Léon, probably the most beautiful of those wins. He can win in the sprint and he can win alone. And he was made to fight for it all the way up to the finish line in Lannery this afternoon. 35th edition of Tro-Bro Léon certainly has been a memorable one, and Christophe Laporte will pay a warm tribute, I think, to Damien Godin. Certainly everyone who's watched has been impressed with that wonderful rearguard performance. So the scene over Lannery this afternoon in Brittany as we survey the top 10. What a cracking edition of Tro-Bro Léon, with Christophe Laporte getting the victory by the scant margin of 4 seconds over the defending champion Damien Godin. Léon Manertz gets up for third from what was left of the lead group. Hofstetter in fourth. Tiller, his great resistance, comes up with a nice top 5 victory. Could it have been his solo success? Well, it wasn't to be. He ended up on the ground, and Laporte saved his visit to the tarmac for the end of the race when he accepts the congratulations of all and sundry in this beautiful town of Lannery on the northwest French coast. And the rain stopped, the sun came back out just in time for the victory celebration. What about Godin? Hasn't been a great classics campaign for Damien Godin, but it's been a good conclusion to these races. And no man who has tried as hard as Damien Godin has to take the victory today will be satisfied with second, but I think he'll get a clap on the back from more than one fan around here.
No, he took his opportunity, he came back, and when he attacked because he wanted to try and win the race, and you can only applaud him for doing that. And he fought his way all the way to these finishing laps. Okay, it wasn't the same feeling he had last year, but he made this man work for it, as you said, and a worthy winner, worthy second place. And rounding off the podium, Tartaletto is our ex-rider, Mannertz, good for them. And I just thought, what could have been? I know there was a lot of crashes and punctures out in the course today, but for the Norwegian champion, Tiller, I'd like to have seen him, stay away and, let the others kind of fight for it. Could possibly have been the same winner, but he looked strong in the end. He got up there in the top 10 again, so he had something left in the legs. And that team always produces some really good riders, and long may that team continue.
Well, how much looking over his shoulder did Christophe Laporte do in those final 10 kilometres? Because Godin was within touching distance, 10 seconds down to 7, down to 4, and that's the gap that was retained to the line. Little smiles at the end, but well, he worked for that one, didn't he? Superb addition once more of something of a hidden gem, isn't it? Tro-Bro Léon. Not for long. That's been another superb day of racing here on Eurosport, and a truly wonderful edition of this Northern French Classic. It's been my very great pleasure to bring it to you. My name's Declan Quigley. Alongside has been Brian Smith. We leave you with some of the scenes, the thrills, the spills, and the action of the Hell of the West. Tro-Bro Léon for 2018 is complete. Goodbye for now.